People We Meet on Vacation is one of those romantic movies that does not depend on big surprises or dramatic twists to keep the audience interested. Instead, it wins people over through its characters, their conversations, and the slow way their relationship grows over many years. At first, the story looks very simple. It is about two friends who take one vacation together every summer. That idea may not sound very exciting in the beginning, but the film slowly proves that the strongest love stories are often built from ordinary moments instead of extraordinary events. By the time the movie reaches its ending, the audience realizes that they have watched much more than a romantic comedy. They have watched two people grow up, make mistakes, lose each other, and finally understand where they truly belong. The movie is based on Emily Henry's popular novel, and it keeps the emotional heart of the original story while giving it a warm and easygoing feeling on screen. The screenplay does not rush anything. It understands that real friendships and real love need time. Because of that, the audience spends many years with Poppy and Alex instead of only a few days. Every vacation becomes another chapter in their lives, and every meeting changes their relationship a little more. This slow approach becomes one of the film's biggest strengths because it allows viewers to understand both characters before expecting them to fall in love. The story begins with Poppy living in New York City. On paper, her life looks successful. She has the job many people dream about. She travels around the world and writes about exciting places. She visits beautiful cities, expensive hotels, famous beaches, and interesting restaurants. Anyone looking at her social media or reading her travel articles would probably think she has the perfect life. But the movie quickly tells us that appearances can be very misleading. Inside, Poppy feels tired, confused, and emotionally empty. She has spent years chasing new experiences, but somehow she has lost the happiness she expected to find. This is something many people can understand today. Modern life often tells us that success means staying busy, traveling often, posting beautiful pictures, and always looking happy. The movie quietly asks whether that kind of life really brings peace. Poppy's career gives her exciting adventures, but it cannot replace the comfort of genuine human connection. That becomes one of the central ideas of the entire film. Emily Bader gives a very natural performance as Poppy. She never tries too hard to be funny or dramatic. Instead, she plays Poppy like someone the audience might actually know. She laughs easily, speaks quickly, hides her pain behind jokes, and often pretends everything is fine even when it is not. These small details make her feel real instead of fictional. Many romantic comedies create female leads who are either perfect or unbelievably clumsy. Poppy is neither. She is simply human. The story takes an important turn when Poppy remembers David's wedding in Barcelona. The wedding itself is important, but not because of the ceremony. It becomes an excuse for Poppy to contact Alex after 2 years of silence. Those 2 years have clearly been painful for both of them. Sometimes friendships end because of one terrible argument. Sometimes they slowly disappear because nobody knows how to fix what has already been broken. The movie suggests that Poppy and Alex belong to the second group. They both miss each other, but neither of them knows how to start the conversation. Her phone call to Alex immediately feels awkward. She pretends she is traveling to Barcelona for work because she is afraid to admit the real reason. This small lie says a lot about her personality. She wants to reconnect, but she is still hiding behind another excuse. Throughout the movie, Poppy often avoids saying exactly what she feels. She hides behind humor, travel, and constant movement. That emotional habit becomes one of the biggest obstacles in her life. Tom Blyth plays Alex with remarkable calmness. While Poppy talks constantly and fills quiet moments with jokes, Alex is the complete opposite. He speaks carefully. He listens more than he talks. He enjoys simple things. A quiet evening, a good novel, a peaceful hometown, and familiar people make him happy. Normally, two people this different would never become close friends. Yet the film shows that differences do not always separate people. Sometimes they make friendships even stronger. Their first meeting years earlier during college is handled beautifully. They share a ride back to their hometown in Ohio, and what could have been an uncomfortable journey slowly becomes the beginning of an unforgettable friendship. The screenplay wisely avoids making them fall in love immediately. Instead, it gives them time to learn about each other. They disagree about many things, laugh together, tease each other, and slowly become comfortable enough to be completely themselves. One reason these scenes work so well is because the dialogue sounds natural. Nobody delivers perfect movie speeches. Their conversations feel like real discussions between two young people trying to understand life. Sometimes they joke about small things, sometimes they talk seriously, sometimes they simply enjoy the silence. This balance makes their friendship believable. The hotel scene during their first road trip is another example of the screenplay's maturity. Sharing a room could easily have become an excuse for cheap romantic comedy. Instead, the movie chooses respect. Alex never behaves inappropriately because he has a girlfriend named Sarah. His behavior immediately tells the audience what kind of person he is. He values loyalty and honesty, even when nobody is watching. Alex's personality becomes one of the movie's greatest strengths. Modern romantic comedies often create male leads who are either overly confident or emotionally unavailable. Alex is different. He is kind without being weak. He is thoughtful without becoming boring. He notices small details that other people ignore. When someone he cares about is struggling, he quietly helps instead of expecting praise. These qualities make him easy to admire. The camping trip after Alex's breakup with Sarah becomes another important step in their friendship. Poppy believes that getting away from everyday life will help him recover. During the trip, they meet other campers who are interested in casual romance and temporary relationships. The movie quietly compares those short-lived attractions with the deeper emotional connection growing between Alex and Poppy. Although both have opportunities to meet other people, they realize that spending time together means much more than any brief romance. This moment leads to one of the most important decisions in the story. They promise to take one vacation together every year. At first, it sounds like a fun tradition between best friends. Neither of them realizes that these yearly trips will slowly become the emotional center of their lives. Every summer gives them another memory, another adventure, another conversation, and another reason to remain connected despite living in different cities. The structure of the movie deserves praise because it moves between different years without confusing the audience. Flashbacks are often difficult to handle. Poorly made flashbacks interrupt the story and reduce emotional impact. Here they serve an important purpose. Every memory explains something about the present. Every vacation helps us understand why these two people matter so much to each other. Director Brett Haley deserves credit for keeping the story emotionally grounded. He does not fill the film with exaggerated misunderstandings or unrealistic drama. Instead, he trusts simple human emotions. His direction allows quiet moments to become meaningful. A shared smile, a long look, or a short conversation often says more than a dramatic argument. The movie also benefits from beautiful locations. Every vacation introduces a different atmosphere. Whether the characters are visiting forests, cities, beaches, or historic streets, the scenery never becomes the main attraction. Instead, each location reflects where Poppy and Alex are emotionally during that period of their lives. The vacations are not simply tourist destinations, they become emotional landmarks in their relationship. One of the film's smartest decisions is showing that friendship itself can be deeply romantic. Many stories rush from meeting to dating. People we meet on vacation spends years exploring what it means to truly know another person. Alex understands Poppy's fears even when she refuses to admit them. Poppy knows exactly how to make Alex smile after a difficult day. These small acts of understanding feel more meaningful than dramatic declarations of love. The chemistry between Emily Bader and Tom Blyth carries the entire movie. Without believable chemistry, this story would completely fail, because almost every emotional scene depends on the audience believing that these two people genuinely enjoy each other's company. Fortunately, both actors create a relationship that feels effortless. Their conversations flow naturally. Their jokes never seem rehearsed. Even their disagreements feel authentic because they argue like close friends instead of strangers. Another impressive quality of the film is its honesty about adulthood. Growing older rarely follows the plans people make in college. Careers change, Relationships end, dreams evolve, some friendships survive while others slowly disappear. The movie accepts these realities instead of pretending life always follows a perfect path. That honesty gives the story emotional weight. As the years pass, the audience notices that every vacation changes in subtle ways. At first, the trips are filled with excitement and endless possibilities. Later, responsibilities begin to interfere. Careers become demanding. Romantic partners enter the picture. Time becomes more limited. Yet despite all these changes, Alex and Poppy continue returning to each other every summer. Almost as if those vacations have become the one stable tradition in constantly changing lives. By this point in the story, the audience already understands something that the characters themselves have not fully admitted. Their yearly vacations are no longer simply holidays. They have quietly become the place where both of them feel most at home, no matter where in the world they happen to be. That realization becomes even clearer during the trip to New Orleans. On the surface, it looks like another fun vacation filled with sightseeing, music, and playful moments. Underneath, though, something is quietly changing. Both of them are older now. They have more responsibilities. They are dating other people. Even so, whenever they are together, they naturally fall back into the easy rhythm they have shared for years. They understand each other's jokes before they are finished. They know when the other person needs silence instead of advice. Those little things may not sound dramatic, but they are exactly what makes relationships last. One of the funniest moments comes when they pretend to be newlyweds during their stay. It starts as an innocent game, something meant to make a situation easier, but it slowly reveals something much deeper. Both of them seem surprisingly comfortable acting like a married couple. They tease each other, laugh together, and slip into those roles almost effortlessly. The audience begins asking an obvious question. If pretending feels this natural, why are they still pretending? The movie wisely avoids giving an immediate answer. Instead, it lets that question stay in the audience's mind. That patience is one of the screenplay's greatest strengths. Many romantic comedies would rush toward a kiss or a dramatic confession. This film understands that timing matters. Feelings that develop over years deserve time before they are finally spoken aloud. Alex is still involved with Sarah during much of this period, while Poppy is dating someone Alex never completely likes. What is interesting is that Alex never openly attacks Poppy's relationship. He simply senses that something is missing. Likewise, Poppy notices that Alex sometimes settles for what feels comfortable instead of asking himself what truly makes him happy. Neither of them is trying to control the other's life. They simply know each other so well that they recognize unhappiness before anyone else does. This creates one of the movie's most realistic conflicts. Sometimes people who care about us see truths that we are not ready to accept ourselves. That can be helpful, but it can also become painful. Advice is easier to give than to hear, especially when it touches the parts of life we are already unsure about. The Norway trip that never happens is another beautiful example of the movie's emotional maturity. Poppy becomes sick before the vacation, and instead of continuing with his travel plans or feeling disappointed, Alex changes everything. He travels to New York simply to take care of her. This moment says more about Alex than any long speech ever could. He does not perform grand romantic gestures to impress anyone. He simply shows up when he is needed. He cooks, helps, keeps her company, and makes sure she is not alone. He never expects praise for doing these things. To him, helping Poppy is simply natural. This kind of love is often missing from romantic movies. Many films focus on dramatic declarations or expensive surprises. People we meet on vacation reminds us that genuine love often looks much quieter. It appears in everyday actions. It appears when someone gives up their own plans because another person needs them more. Tom Blyth deserves a great deal of credit here. His performance is built almost entirely on small expressions. A quick smile, a worried glance, or a silent pause often tells the audience exactly what Alex is feeling. It is a restrained performance, but that restraint makes it believable. Emily Bader matches him perfectly. Poppy spends much of the movie pretending she is confident, adventurous, and completely in control. Yet, every now and then, cracks begin to appear. She starts questioning whether constant travel is actually making her happy. She begins wondering why every exciting destination still leaves her feeling lonely afterward. This is one of the strongest themes in the entire film. The story quietly asks whether people sometimes use movement to avoid facing themselves. Poppy loves travel, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is not the vacations. The problem is that they sometimes become an escape. Visiting another country is easier than dealing with difficult emotions waiting back home. Booking another flight feels simpler than asking yourself why success no longer feels satisfying. Many viewers will probably recognize this idea. Not everyone escapes through travel. Some people escape through work. Others escape through social media, hobbies, or constant busyness. The movie never criticizes adventure itself. It simply asks whether running towards something is actually another way of running away from something else. The present-day reunion in Barcelona is filled with uncomfortable warmth. Both characters are genuinely happy to see each other, yet neither knows how to behave after 2 years apart. Their friendship still exists, but it now carries the weight of everything left unsaid. These scenes feel painfully honest. Anyone who has reunited with an old friend after years of silence will recognize that strange mixture of comfort and awkwardness. You remember everything about each other, yet somehow you also feel like strangers. The wedding setting works beautifully, because weddings naturally make people think about relationships, commitment, and the future. While everyone else is celebrating love, Alex and Poppy are forced to examine the complicated history between them. The rehearsal dinner becomes an important turning point. Alex discovers that Poppy lied about coming to Barcelona for work. The lie itself is not especially serious, but it reveals something bigger. Poppy was afraid to admit that she simply missed him. Alex asks why she came. Her answer is wonderfully simple. She missed her best friend. There is something refreshing about that honesty. The movie does not wrap every emotional moment inside clever dialogue. Sometimes the most powerful words are also the simplest. Alex admits that he missed her too. For a brief moment, it feels like everything might finally return to normal. But Alex then says something that changes the entire conversation. He tells her that things cannot go back to the way they were before Tuscany. That single sentence carries years of unresolved emotion. The Tuscany vacation slowly unfolds through another flashback, and it becomes obvious why this trip changed everything. Unlike earlier vacations, this one includes both of their romantic partners. Alex arrives with Sarah, Poppy arrives with Trey. The atmosphere immediately feels different. Their private tradition has become crowded by people who do not fully understand its importance. The audience begins noticing subtle changes. Conversations become shorter, glances become longer, silence becomes heavier. Nothing dramatic happens at first. That is exactly why the tension works so well. Real emotional distance rarely appears overnight. It grows slowly until one small moment changes everything. One of those moments comes when Poppy quietly asks Alex to help her with a pregnancy test. This scene is handled with remarkable sensitivity. There is no unnecessary drama, no loud arguments, no exaggerated reactions. Alex simply helps because that is what he has always done. He has always been the person she turns to first. Watching them together during this scene makes something painfully obvious. No matter who they are dating, they continue relying on each other more than anyone else. That emotional truth becomes impossible to ignore. The near kiss that follows feels completely earned. For years, the audience has watched these two people slowly move toward this point without fully realizing what was happening. When they almost kiss, it does not feel like a sudden romantic twist. It feels like years of hidden feelings finally reaching the surface. Poppy immediately pulls back. She insists she did not mean it. Whether she truly believes those words is another question. Fear often makes people deny exactly what they want most. Alex reacts with understandable pain. He has probably spent years trying to ignore emotions that have quietly grown stronger with every vacation. Hearing Poppy dismiss that moment hurts more than he can admit. Instead of arguing, he walks away. Sometimes silence is more heartbreaking than shouting. The following morning brings another emotional surprise. Alex proposes to Sarah. At first glance, this decision seems confusing, but the more we think about it, the more understandable it becomes. Sometimes people make major life decisions immediately after emotional disappointment. Instead of facing painful feelings, they convince themselves that choosing certainty is safer than chasing uncertainty. Sarah accepts. Alex tells Poppy they plan to settle down in Linfield. Poppy immediately questions whether that is really the life Alex wants. Her concern comes from love. Unfortunately, Alex hears judgment instead. This misunderstanding becomes one of the movie's most believable conflicts. Both characters genuinely care about each other. Both believe they are helping, yet neither fully understands what the other is actually trying to say. Alex finally declares that Tuscany will be their last vacation together. The line lands with tremendous emotional weight because the audience knows exactly what those vacations have meant over the years. He is not simply ending a travel tradition. He is trying to end the relationship that has quietly become the emotional center of his entire adult life. That decision explains the painful 2-year silence leading into the beginning of the movie. Neither of them truly wanted to lose the other. They simply reached a point where pretending everything was normal became impossible. That decision also explains why the reunion in Barcelona feels so fragile. Neither of them is angry anymore. The anger has faded with time. What remains is regret. They both know they lost something precious, but neither of them knows whether it can ever be repaired. This emotional honesty is what separates people we meet on vacation from many other romantic comedies. In a lot of movies, the conflict depends on one silly misunderstanding that could be solved with a 5-minute conversation. Here, the problem is much deeper. Alex and Poppy have spent years protecting their friendship by refusing to admit what they truly feel. Ironically, that same silence becomes the reason they almost lose each other forever. As the story returns to the present, Barcelona becomes more than just another beautiful city. It becomes the place where both characters finally stop running from the truth. Throughout the movie, vacations have usually been an escape from ordinary life. This time, however, the vacation forces them to face the parts of themselves they have avoided for years. The city itself looks warm, colorful, and full of life. The narrow streets, old buildings, outdoor cafes, and evening lights create a relaxed atmosphere. The beautiful surroundings never distract from the story. Instead, they quietly support it. The audience enjoys the scenery, but the real focus always stays on the two people walking through it. One small scene involving the air conditioner says a lot about the movie's style. Alex tries to repair it, hurts his back, and suddenly finds himself unable to move comfortably. In another film, this might simply be played for laughs. Here it becomes another opportunity for the characters to care for each other. Poppy immediately steps into the role Alex has played for her so many times before. She helps him, worries about him, and stays close while he rests. There is something touching about watching these two people take care of each other so naturally. Neither of them thinks twice before helping. Their kindness feels automatic because it has been built over nearly a decade of friendship. Moments like this remind the audience that love is rarely about dramatic speeches. More often, it is about asking whether someone needs a glass of water, making sure they are comfortable, or staying beside them when they are having a difficult day. The screenplay repeatedly returns to this idea. The biggest expressions of love in the movie are often the quietest ones. As Barcelona continues, Poppy begins asking questions she avoided for years. She wants to understand why Alex and Sarah separated. Until now, she has assumed there must have been many complicated reasons. Alex finally tells her the truth. It was because of Poppy. The line is simple, but its emotional impact is enormous. Alex is not blaming her. He is finally admitting what he has hidden for years. No matter how much he tried to build another life, his feelings for Poppy never disappeared. Sarah eventually realized that a part of Alex's heart already belonged somewhere else. This confession changes everything. For the first time, both characters are standing in complete honesty. There are no jokes, no excuses, no distractions. Only truth. Poppy finally realizes that she has been afraid for much longer than she understood. She has always convinced herself that friendship was safer than love. Friendship could survive distance, different relationships, and changing careers. Love felt much more dangerous because it carried the possibility of heartbreak. The movie handles this realization with surprising maturity. It never suggests that love suddenly appeared overnight. Instead, it shows that love had always been present. The characters simply lacked the courage to recognize it. Emily Bader performs these emotional scenes beautifully. Instead of delivering dramatic speeches, she allows Poppy's emotions to appear gradually. Her face shows relief, fear, happiness, guilt, and hope almost at the same time. It feels like someone who has finally admitted a truth they have been carrying for years. Tom Blyth is equally impressive. Alex has spent most of the movie holding his emotions inside. When he finally opens up, he does not become overly dramatic. His honesty remains calm, thoughtful, and deeply sincere. That restraint makes the confession even more believable. Their declaration of love feels earned because the audience has watched nearly 10 years of emotional history leading to this single moment. When they finally kiss, it does not feel like the beginning of their relationship. It feels like the ending of a very long journey. The romantic scene that follows is handled tastefully. It is presented as the natural result of years of trust, friendship, and emotional closeness, rather than simple physical attraction. That choice fits the tone of the entire movie. The relationship has always been built on emotional intimacy first. For a short time, everything seems perfect. They attend David's wedding together. The audience finally gets what it has been hoping for since the beginning. Yet the screenplay wisely refuses to end the movie immediately. Real relationships do not suddenly become simple after two people confess their love. Sometimes, the hardest conversations happen after people finally admit how they feel. That is exactly what happens during the wedding reception. Alex begins thinking about the future. He naturally assumes they should start building a life together. Poppy's response surprises him. She says she needs time. Her answer is understandable from her point of view. For years, she has been constantly moving from one place to another. Her career depends on freedom, travel, and flexibility. Suddenly, making permanent life decisions feels frightening. Unfortunately, Alex hears something very different. After waiting for so many years, "I need time" sounds dangerously close to rejection. This disagreement becomes one of the strongest scenes in the film because neither person is completely wrong. Alex wants certainty after years of uncertainty. Poppy wants space to understand how her entire life is changing. Both reactions feel honest. The argument that follows avoids the usual romantic comedy cliches. Nobody becomes cruel. Nobody suddenly turns into a villain. Instead, they speak difficult truths that have remained hidden for years. Alex tells Poppy that she keeps running away from problems by planning another vacation. Those words hurt because there is truth inside them. Whenever life becomes emotionally complicated, Poppy usually changes locations instead of confronting the issue directly. Travel has become both her passion and her hiding place. Poppy answers by criticizing Alex's determination to remain in Linfield. She believes he sometimes chooses safety over possibility. She worries that he limits himself because staying close to home feels less frightening than chasing larger dreams. Again, her words contain some truth. The argument works because it grows from years of mutual understanding. Strangers cannot hurt us this deeply. Only people who truly know us understand where our deepest fears exist. The wedding celebration around them creates an interesting contrast. Everyone else is celebrating commitment while Alex and Poppy are questioning whether they are ready for one. The emotional tension becomes stronger because happiness and heartbreak exist in the same place at the same time. After the argument, both characters separate once again. The audience begins wondering whether history is repeating itself. Have they finally confessed their love only to lose each other again? The airport scene answers that question in an unexpected way. Instead of meeting Alex first, Poppy meets Sarah. This conversation is one of the most mature scenes in the movie. Many romantic stories would create jealousy or bitterness between these two women. Instead, the screenplay chooses kindness. Sarah listens to Poppy's apology without anger. She gently explains that her relationship with Alex ended for many reasons. Yes, Alex's connection with Poppy made things difficult, but that was not the whole story. Sarah herself was uncertain about the future. She also struggled with knowing what she truly wanted. This conversation becomes important because it removes unnecessary guilt. Sarah is not presented as someone who simply lost the man she loved to another woman. She is portrayed as a thoughtful person who understands that relationships sometimes end because both people need different futures. It is a surprisingly compassionate scene. Nobody wins, nobody loses. Three good people simply reach different places in life. After speaking with Sarah, something changes inside Poppy. For perhaps the first time in many years, she stops asking where she should travel next. Instead, she asks where she truly belongs. That difference is small in words, but enormous in meaning. The answer leads her back to Linfield. Returning there is symbolic. Throughout the movie, she believed happiness always existed somewhere else. Another country, another city, another vacation. Now she discovers that sometimes the place we spend years trying to leave becomes the place where we finally understand ourselves. When she arrives to see Alex, there are no complicated games left. She does not invent another excuse. She does not hide behind another joke. She simply tells the truth. She admits that she has always feared being too much. She worried that eventually Alex would become tired of her energy, her constant movement, her uncertainty, and her complicated emotions. That fear explains many of her decisions throughout the story. She often left first because she believed staying might eventually lead to rejection. Alex finally understands that her hesitation was never about loving him. It was about believing she might not deserve the kind of steady love he had quietly offered for years. This emotional breakthrough feels deeply satisfying because it grows naturally from everything the audience has already learned about both characters. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels artificial. It simply feels like two people finally becoming honest enough to stop letting fear make their decisions. That honesty becomes the true ending of the story. It is not the kiss. It is not the wedding. It is not even the moment when they finally call each other a couple. The real ending is the moment both of them stop pretending to be people they are not. Poppy stops acting as if she has to keep moving all the time, and Alex stops believing that keeping everything safe is always the best answer. They meet each other in the middle, not because one person changes completely for the other, but because both of them are finally willing to grow. By the next summer, the audience sees that Alex and Poppy are living together in New York City. This ending feels earned because it is built on compromise instead of sacrifice. Alex does not force Poppy to stay forever in Linfield, and Poppy does not ask Alex to spend his entire life chasing flights across the world. They build a future that belongs to both of them. That is one of the healthiest messages in the entire film. Many romantic stories make love look like one person giving up everything for another. This movie chooses a much better idea. A strong relationship is about creating a new life together, not asking someone to abandon the life they already have. Alex keeps the calmness that defines him. Poppy keeps her curiosity about the world. Instead of trying to change each other, they learn how to make room for both personalities. The final scenes have a peaceful feeling rather than an overly dramatic one. The audience does not need another emotional speech because everything important has already been said. Watching them settle into ordinary life together becomes more satisfying than any grand romantic ending could have been. After spending almost 10 years watching these two people struggle with timing, fear, and distance, simply seeing them share everyday life feels like the greatest reward. One of the biggest achievements of the movie is how it treats friendship. Many romance films make friendship seem like a temporary stage before love begins. Here, friendship remains the foundation of everything. Even after Alex and Poppy become a couple, the audience understands that they are still best friends first. That friendship is exactly what gives their romance strength. The screenplay deserves a lot of credit for respecting emotional intelligence. It never assumes the audience needs constant excitement every few minutes. Instead, it trusts viewers to enjoy conversations, silence, memories, and character development. Some people may think this approach is too quiet, but others will appreciate how genuine it feels. Adapting a popular novel is never easy. Readers already have clear pictures of the characters in their minds. Expectations are naturally very high. The writers deserve praise for keeping the emotional heart of Emily Henry's story while shaping it into a film that works on its own. They understand that movies and novels tell stories differently. Instead of trying to copy every page exactly, they focus on preserving the emotional journey. Brett Haley's direction is another reason the movie succeeds. He understands that romance is often found in ordinary moments. A walk through a city street, a shared meal, sitting quietly in the same room, or laughing over an old memory can sometimes say more than dramatic declarations. He allows these moments enough time to breathe. His pacing will probably divide audiences. Viewers looking for a fast-moving romantic comedy filled with constant jokes may find the film slower than expected. The story often pauses to let emotions settle before moving forward again. For many people, this slower rhythm becomes one of its greatest strengths. It mirrors the way real relationships develop over time instead of racing from one milestone to another. The cinematography quietly supports the story throughout. Every vacation has its own personality without becoming a travel advertisement. Barcelona feels warm and inviting. New Orleans carries energy and music. Tuscany feels peaceful and romantic. The forests, beaches, city streets, and countryside all help create emotional moods rather than simply showing beautiful scenery. The camera frequently stays close to the actors during emotional conversations. This allows small facial expressions to become important. A brief smile, uncertain eyes, or an unfinished sentence often communicate more than pages of dialogue could. The costume design also deserves recognition. Poppy's clothing reflects her adventurous personality. She often dresses with bright colors and relaxed confidence, matching someone who spends her life exploring new places. Alex's wardrobe is much simpler and more practical, quietly reminding the audience that he values comfort over appearance. These visual choices strengthen both characters without drawing unnecessary attention to themselves. The production design feels realistic. Hotel rooms, apartments, airports, restaurants, and family homes all look lived in rather than overly polished. That realism helps the audience believe the story. Nothing feels artificial or designed only to impress. The editing handles the timeline carefully. Moving between different years could easily become confusing, but each transition is clear enough that the audience always understands where they are in the relationship. Every flashback answers a question raised in the present instead of interrupting the story. The music supports the emotions without trying to control them. Instead of overwhelming every important scene, the score quietly stays in the background, allowing the performances to remain the main focus. This restraint fits the gentle tone of the movie. The dialogue is another major strength. People rarely speak in perfect sentences during emotional moments, and this screenplay understands that. Conversations include hesitation, unfinished thoughts, awkward pauses, and jokes used to hide uncomfortable feelings. That makes the characters sound like real people instead of fictional heroes. Humor is handled naturally as well. The movie never depends on loud slapstick comedy or exaggerated misunderstandings. Most of the laughs come from personality differences between Alex and Poppy. Her spontaneous decisions constantly surprise him, while his careful planning often makes her smile. Their opposite approaches to life create funny situations without making either character look foolish. Emily Bader gives one of the strongest performances of the film. Poppy could easily have become an exhausting character because she talks quickly, changes plans often, and constantly seeks new experiences. Instead, Emily Bader makes her deeply likable because she allows the audience to see the vulnerability beneath the confidence. We understand that Poppy's endless energy often hides uncertainty rather than happiness. She also captures the gradual emotional growth beautifully. The Poppy we meet at the beginning is different from the woman we see at the end. The change is never sudden. It happens little by little through disappointment, reflection, and honesty. That slow transformation feels convincing. Tom Blyth's performance is equally impressive, but in a completely different way. Alex is naturally quiet, which means much of his acting depends on subtle expressions instead of dramatic speeches. Tom Blyth handles this challenge wonderfully. He communicates loyalty, patience, disappointment, love, and hope through the smallest changes in expression. His chemistry with Emily Bader is probably the movie's greatest achievement. Romantic films live or die based on whether the audience believes two people belong together. These actors make that belief easy. They feel comfortable together from the first scene until the last. Their friendship is believable long before their romance begins, which is exactly what this story requires. The supporting cast also contributes effectively. even though the film mainly focuses on Alex and Poppy. Sarah deserves special mention because she is written with unusual kindness. She could easily have become the stereotypical obstacle standing between the main couple. Instead, she remains a thoughtful person whose own journey matters. That choice adds maturity to the screenplay. David and the wedding guests help create a believable world around the central relationship without distracting from it. Their presence reminds us that life continues around Alex and Poppy, even while they struggle with their feelings. One theme that continues appearing throughout the movie is the idea of home. At first, Poppy believes home is wherever the next adventure begins. Alex believes home is where familiar people and familiar places exist. By the ending, both understand that home is less about geography and more about the person beside you. That message is simple, but it never feels forced. Another important theme is timing. The movie suggests that loving someone is not always enough. People also have to be emotionally ready. Alex and Poppy probably loved each other for years before either one admitted it. If they had confessed too early, perhaps they would not have been ready. If they had waited much longer, perhaps they would never have found each other again. Life often depends as much on timing as emotion, and the film explores that idea thoughtfully. The story also examines fear in several different forms. Alex fears losing the people he loves. Poppy fears staying in one place long enough to be disappointed. Sarah fears building a future that no longer feels right. Each character struggles with uncertainty in a different way, making the emotional conflicts richer than they first appear. If we look at the movie's strengths, there are many. Its biggest strength is the believable relationship between the two main characters. Every important emotional moment grows naturally from years of shared experiences. The performances are warm and sincere. The dialogue feels realistic. The direction avoids unnecessary melodrama. The locations are beautiful without overwhelming the story. The screenplay respects its audience by trusting quiet conversations more than exaggerated drama. Most importantly, the film understands that lasting love is usually built through friendship, patience, honesty, and mutual respect. The movie also succeeds because it does not treat romance as a fantasy disconnected from everyday life. Careers, family expectations, distance, emotional insecurity, and changing priorities all become part of the relationship. That realism allows many viewers to see parts of their own lives reflected on screen. There are, however, a few weaknesses. Some viewers may feel that the pacing is too gentle, especially during the middle section. Because the film spends so much time developing emotional details, people expecting constant comedy or dramatic surprises may occasionally feel that the story moves slowly. Those unfamiliar with the novel may also find the frequent flashbacks slightly repetitive at times, since the movie repeatedly jumps between past vacations and the present. Although these transitions usually work well, a few could have been shorter. A handful of supporting characters also remain underdeveloped. While this is understandable because the film focuses almost entirely on Alex and Poppy, viewers may wish that characters like Trey or David received a little more depth. Some audience members may also predict the ending fairly early. The film never tries to hide the fact that Alex and Poppy are meant for each other. The real question is not if they will become a couple, but how they will overcome their fears. People looking for surprising plot twists may therefore find the story somewhat predictable. Even so, predictability is not always a flaw. Many classic romance films are remembered not because the audience was surprised, but because they cared deeply about the people involved. People We Meet on Vacation belongs to that tradition. It invites viewers to enjoy the emotional journey rather than simply waiting to discover the ending. By the time the final scene arrives, the audience is left with a comforting feeling instead of overwhelming excitement. The film quietly reminds us that the greatest relationships are rarely built through perfect moments. They are built through years of showing up, listening carefully, forgiving mistakes, growing together, and choosing the same person again and again. That simple but meaningful message is what gives People We Meet on Vacation its lasting charm and makes it a warm, heartfelt, romantic story that stays with viewers long after the vacation has ended.